Good
Good.
afternoon and welcome to the TUG webinar. We have Steve McEnany, who is from Midwest Wheels, and he's going to be doing a presentation on all the attributes of Storefront. And the recording will be approximately 35 minutes long and will be available for others to view tomorrow afternoon. So Steve, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, well, get started here. So we have Don Harris, the EasyAsk Director of Services, and Craig Basin, the CEO of EasyAsk, joining me to go over this. So if you have got questions about search and that direction, Craig's also going to have a brief presentation following the slide deck I've got, and we can really talk about where Storefront goes. Just real briefly about Midwest Wheel. We're a truck parts distributor in the central United States, 6 locations, 100,000 products. We keep everything current, keep SX.e up to date. Actually, I load the updates myself and keep it current, same with Info.os. So we really strive to stay current, and that's just one of our goals. And we also try to run it the way it was written. We don't try to go out there and reinvent it and modify things. So the things you're seeing here can be done without major modifications to the system. Primary markets that we serve, fleets, repair shops, truck accessory and installation companies. Really anything with wheels running down the highway, we probably sell them products. As you can see, our locations throughout the Midwest, really focused in Iowa. Started in 1911 in Des Moines, Iowa, right there in the center in that A point, and have grown out from there. Stock a real wide variety of things. Really pretty traditional warehousing. We do use TWL in our 3 largest distribution centers, but pretty traditional stuff. I'm sure most of you have warehouses that look very similar. I guess when it comes down to how we present ourselves to our customers, it's not just about how we present ourselves to e-commerce. We have 42 segments on our line card. So all of our marketing is divided into those 42 segments. All of our SX.e product catalogs are divided in the same 42 segments. So our customers see a consistent way of going to market. It's very important that it's clear to them that when they look at a flyer and it says it's in catalog 2, that they can go to the website and click on catalog 2 and they're looking at the same products. Our category page in Storefront, you can see is pretty laid out the same way with the same kind of numbers. You see 41 categories just because we have one for unclassified, but there's actually the 42. When you drill into each category, you can see we've got some pictures and attributes and information about the product. When you click on the product, you can see attributes and product marketing, descriptions and pictures. Really, that's where Storefront's the primary holder of that data. SX.e's got your part numbers and your actual selling ERP data, but you have to have somewhere to have all of that important marketing information and attributes. If you want to go look for a Penray product, you want to be able to click, find Penray, you can filter down to those 96 products very quickly. And we'll go over briefly how to load those. Search is a #1 used feature for lookups for us. We have, I wanted to make sure and say this isn't a class in using EasyAsk Studio. I know a lot of us don't spend a lot of time in the studio. So I just want to say I rarely log into the studio site, but I'll tell you, I logged into this morning to pull some statistics. 98.06% of the searches keyed into our website yield results. 3% of them are relaxed searches. So we really have some solid search data based on how we've loaded this up. The top search data page in the studio will tell you what people are keying in the most often. And there's also a page that'll show you the things they're keying in and not getting results. So both of those are really advantageous to take a minute and review. And I'll let Craig cover that stuff. When you look at search as you type, the things you look at in search as you type really helps a customer by suggesting items as they type, helping them narrow down what they're searching for, whether it's keying in a competitive part number or our part number. But for us, those additional cross-references, those competitive part numbers, those things aren't suggested until someone searches for it the first time. And that was really frustrating for our customers. They want to be able to key in whatever part number they're used to and have it suggest the products that we sell to fit that application. You'll find that that's not in the manual, but in your SX.e system, when you're keying into Web UI and you start keying that competitive number, your autocomplete drops down and shows you the numbers you stock. So I'm going to briefly show you how we kind of beat that. It's not in the manual. A couple things you can do. So if you look at the first example here, this 40242R, we stock it with an R, but some people key it in with a P. You can see that number's not there, but it's actually a manufacturer number, so it drives it. You look at a number like this 3315844, that number happens to be in a description. But we also want it to autocomplete. We don't want it to say some suggested searches. We want to see a picture of the product, the part number we sell, and really suggest, hey, click here and buy this. So the same accord when a customer keys in part of a number, you want it to start suggesting, hey, is it a 3 or is it a 0 or is it a 1? You know, here's some pictures of the products that might fit what you're looking for. Even in some cases, here's a substitution product that we stock from another brand. All those things help customers, help keep them engaged, versus you can also click, you know, additional cross references. EasyAsk will dig in and give you solutions. Sometimes it does that, or there was no solution. Here's a competitive number for this filter that is shown nowhere on the filter page. And I'll show you how we did that. But in SEC in our SX.e system, we have a cross-reference record for that product. So we create a way to pull those cross-references into the EasyAsk system so it can give you suggestions. So really, how do you make SEC work for you in Storefront? Because really, Storefront pulls in interfaces, substitutions, optional products, things like that. But when you start talking about the -I records, the interchange records, what do you do with those? So what we've gone out and created is a text file that's a hidden text file named ourproduct.txt. And the reason why we use our part number is because you can auto assign them. So we go out and we pull all those records out, and we say for a part like this LFF 1001 that we were just looking at, might have a text file for every OEM and competitive number. So in this case, that 33407 is in this text file. All these are just pulled from the SEC records. The whole point is to grab the data you want to search on, but maybe not share all your cross-references or all your reasons that you might want that number to pop up when you key it in. But anything you put in this file, when EasyAsk searches, it's going to suggest that as a solution for what you're looking for. But when you take it to search as you type, you know, how do you really get this thing to work? So we zip up all these text files, typically limit it to 35 to 50,000 files in a zipped group. And the reason why we limit that is because you'll find it'll time out if you get too big. So you can do this multiple times if you've got hundreds of thousands of parts or files you want to import. But what you don't want to do is have it timing out and then you got to go back and clean up and you're not sure where you started. So taking smaller bites is a good choice here. The only two real key things, if you don't want the text to show up in Storefront, don't select import as text. It'll treat it like it's a non-displayable file and allow you to have that drive EasyAsk without displaying in the site. And you can see I also select automatically apply these to the part numbers. That's why we name them the same thing as the product number. We want that file to just automatically attach itself. We don't want to go out there and manually do this stuff. Here's a couple quick tips that'll save you as you get into importing more and more attachments. When you import things, eventually you want to delete things. So use keywords. Keywords, you can use as many of them as you want. In Storefront, I've never seen a limit. For these cross-reference files, I use things like cross, underscore, and the month and the year I loaded it. Because if I go in and say keyword and I search for the word cross and hit search, it'll find every cross out there. And I could do it by particular date if I want to remove only a section of what I've loaded. But those keywords allow you to segregate your files. Otherwise, you're going to be clicking one file at a time trying to find what you want to remove. Another thing to look out, these are the things I've learned over time. Don't name two files the same thing. So if you've loaded your descriptions already with using attachments that are the same as the product number, you got to look out because it won't overwrite that file. What it'll do is it'll put an _1 after the name of the file, and you're still looking at the original file. So you have to be careful with your naming convention. Plan ahead for what you're doing. Like all of my descriptions will be LFF 1000 _DESC.text. That way I know that that's my displayable description. If I'm doing a primary image, I'll put _image after it. Once all the files are imported, EasyAsk will index the file contacts, but search as you type won't suggest anything unless it's ready to be searched or it's been already searched in recent history. Really, if it's searched in the last 90 days, it'll display it. But if a customer's never keyed that part number in, they've never keyed that 33407 that we had typed in earlier, they're not going to get suggested that the first time that they go to look for that. I look at that as a lost sale because people don't click additional cross-references. They don't click the search button anymore. They expect it to work like Google when they're typing. It's going to suggest, here's what you're looking for. So we really tried to find a way around that. And I want to, before I go too far past this file import process, Don and Craig will cover a little this at the end, but when we were getting ready for this call, we had a call with EasyAsk, and we were talking about all these files I create, and we were creating one file for every product in SX because we wanted the file to have, if we're expanding apart, like we want to remove the dashes and the periods, but still have that cross. In our case, our LF space is a prefix that customers don't always key in. So, we want to also cross with and without that. We want to have all those competitive numbers be suggestive. So what we ended up doing, Don spent a little bit of time on our dictionary and created a process that eliminated 73% of the files I was uploading. 73% of the maintenance I'm doing, maintaining cross-references, was eliminated with a little bit of their time. So that's why I'm going to lend some time to those guys at the end of this call so they can talk about the things they can do for us. I know we've been on Storefront since 2015 and really never looked at it from that aspect. They can certainly save us some time and can be a real asset if we can put them to use. So back to search as you type. We didn't like the answer of missing the first sale. So here's how you beat it. First, you got to assume search as you type is enabled already. You really got to be on Storefront 2.0 500 to have search as you type or newer. Then there's a job that runs every night that searches your Storefront EasyAsk database for any recent hits. It generates a list of files or list of part numbers that have been keyed in over the past 90 days. And you can configure that, but ours is set at 90 days. And it gives them a relevancy. So if someone keyed the same cross in maybe 50 times, it'll give it a relevancy of 50. So now what if you want to make your own list of suggested items and say, hey, if somebody keys this in, I want it to work. Well, after working with Don about a year ago, we went through and figured out how to make search as you type work. And then I had Infor put a KB out so you all could figure out how to do it. And this is just a copy of the KB. You can find it on Infor's website. But the whole point is this shows you step by step how to attach a file that suggests all these additional crosses. I'm not going to sit here and bore you reading through all this. The key part of it is really here. In our DXP file, there's a line in there called search space name equals indexer autocomplete. The normal setup has auto-completion and analytics.txt. That's that file I was talking about that gives you the reference. It says, hey, this has been keyed in 50 times. It's a very relevant cross. We want to suggest that high. You can also put a comma and add your own file name and then just go the semicolon that was already there. And then now we can populate this file with anything that we want search as you type to suggest answers for. And I'll tell you, in my case, I have 500,000 suggestions in that file. Anything I can think of that someone might key in, I want it to suggest a solution just like our web UI does in SX. As a counter guy or as a customer is keying a part number in, I want it to say, hey, that's our XYZ. So the only really covenant here is you got to put it in the same directory as you'll find that auto completion analytics file or .text. As long as it's in the same directory and identified here, when the indexer processor runs in EasyAsk, it's going to pick up those suggestions. It'll automatically pre-search them and suggest them to the end users. That's a huge, huge tool. Our customers, I can't emphasize enough how much our customers really like this change. And here's all that's in the file. So I say that if someone keys in 000190, I give it a relevancy score of 0 because no one's really keyed it before, but I do want it indexed. And I want it to be suggested for my catalog 1. So if you had 15 catalogs, you can put them all in the same file, and it'll do your search as you type indexing for all 15 catalogs with one file. That's really all I had on the search as you type. And then to talk about import rules to live by and importing into SX or importing into the Storefront system, is talk about some things that I've learned to save you some time and make life a little simpler. Important rules to live by. Always, 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 always back up. I've learned the lesson. I'm sure we've all learned the lesson. If you don't back up before you make a major change, you might be in this SQL server going line by line, cleaning it up. Also, you cannot delete an entire catalog if it's assigned to thousands of users or lots of profiles. So when you design a catalog, you have to plan on that catalog name is going to stick around a long time. So my comment here, and I documented it, the instructions really didn't deal with the fact that that catalog could get tied to a lot of different variations in users, so you may not have it all in profiles. So it's not easy to switch to a different catalog name. So what we've done is stuck with one catalog name, and we just clean the catalog out and reload it. Another big lesson to learn: when you're importing, you can't duplicate sequence numbers. As you get into this, you'll see what I mean. But if you import product A and product B to the same catalog, same category with the same sequence number, it'll let you do it in several versions of Storefront, and that will blow up the database. It won't index anymore. It'll just crash. And really, the safest way to get out of that is to go back and roll back to your backup. You can go into the system and delete each one of those duplicate sequence numbers, but typically when I make this kind of mistake, I've made it 100,000 times. I've duplicated all of them. Category names must not end in a space. This, I think, was in version 2.0, 400 and 500. If they had a space, it'll mess up indexing and you won't know why. But they just cannot end in a space. They need to end with a character. And then use consistent naming. And I mentioned this earlier, that if I'm going to have a product image, I'm going to put underscore image.jpg after it. I'm going to have a description that's going to display. It's going to be underscore dsc.text. That way I know what they are. They're very easily visible in the catalog application. And you'll notice in my image names, I don't have any spaces. Spaces get converted and into %20 when they convert. And when you drill into an image, you'll find sometimes they'll drill in and they'll give you an error rather than showing you the image. Depends on the browser you're in, but rather than taking a chance, I just take all the spaces and change them to underscores. Like I said, it's all things we've just learned over time. We had hundreds of images we imported, and a customer suggested this was a problem, and it certainly was. We just needed to get rid of the underscores or get rid of the spaces. And then I mentioned earlier about always using keywords. It's a huge time saver. And if you don't add a prefix in front of file names, we've got vendors that'll say, they'll name all their images like image123.jpg, and you'll have two vendors use the same file name. Goes back to the same issue I mentioned earlier. If you have the same file name imported, Storefront's going to add an _1, _2, and just keep letting you add more and more file copies in there. Problem is you might be displaying a picture of a widget when you meant to display a golf club. It can be, we've had a few instances where it should have been a light and it was a clamp, and it was all about forgetting to do this prefix. Just put your vendor or your product line in front of your image names. It's easy to append it before you import it, and it's just, again, a safety factor. And then this is one that if you haven't learned this one yet, you've probably spent a lot of time cleaning catalogs up. So when you're importing, the easiest thing to do is to clean out your catalog. So we have a catalog structure where we have our 42 categories, all in catalog 1. So level 1's unclassified for company 1. If I put an asterisk in there on this unassigned delete file, it will clean out that entire catalog, removing all the products out of it, all the images that are assigned to it, and all the attributes. So it gives me a clean, empty framework to start from with one run of the system, rather than going through and clicking all the stuff, selecting all, deleting all, and waiting for it. This will just run it in the background. And then we keep another spreadsheet where we assign images and categories to our catalogs. So for example, this one, catalog 1, our level 1 being ABS, is going to have icon number 1 assigned to it. So once I've cleaned out the framework, I can just import this file and it adds all the pictures back. So now I've got an empty catalog that's all set up with categories and pictures. And then here's something that we do that I think we can all agree: when you go to a website and you want to search and you want to look for widgets or tire inflation systems in this case, the last thing you want to do is look through 5 pages of things that aren't in stock. So what we've done is we've gone into SX and said, all right, give me all my part numbers in order by A rank first by product category. Then I went through and sequenced them all so that my first BA, so they're alphanumeric, but A ranks first, then B's, C's, etc. And so the first one that's going to show up in that category is an A rank product. We're going to have that in stock. It's going to be, odds are, what the customer's looking for on the first couple pages. Makes the site very relevant, makes people want to surf with your site versus just saying, oh, heck with it, I'll just search for it. If it doesn't come up, I'll move on. But you control what order these come up. So if you bring in a new widget tomorrow and you want it to be number 1, you can put it as number. You can put it the first item on the first page if you want to. It's all about sequence number in the catalog. And you can design this to have multiple levels, lots of categories. It's all about the sequence number as the order they're going to display. And then again, just like saying backup, always, always, always check the catalog before you run the publishing job. Because if you've imported an empty catalog, Storefront will do an excellent job of indexing an empty catalog and allowing search not to work and not be able to sell anything. And of course, that's probably your live system that you can't sell anything in. So it's a good idea to look at it before you publish it. Just a couple more slides to talk about item information, things you can do. You know, really it comes down to SX doesn't keep dimensions. I guess it keeps dimensions and weights, but doesn't keep things like color. So what we run into is vendors will supply us image maps and folders of their images. They might have PIEs files, which product information exchange standards is what we use in the automotive aftermarket. They may send us their marketing database and say, here, figure out what you want and go ahead and use it. In the end, you end up putting it all into Excel, formatting it with formulas, and making it work. So one task I do here, here's an example of the PIEs file. Here's every field they're sending at me, and they're all bar delimited. So this first product number, you have to take this apart. Well, you know, it takes some Excel expertise to take it apart and get things lined up. But once you've defined it, save your work in a folder named for the vendor. Keep that folder, because a year from now, when you've added more products and you want to go ahead and reload a new PIEs file from that vendor, how great is it to have everything already laid out how you need it, and you're 90% done. You just got to put the new data in and run it again. attributes is one of those things that we pull from that file. For one, we use a brand attribute. So it could be supplier, but what you don't want is a brand and a supplier attribute. So in the current version of Storefront, if you don't enter anything in the search box and you just click search, it's going to show you every part number in your database and every attribute that's in use. So it's a very quick way to see it all. If I can figure out where I put my browser, I'll bring it up again. So if I just go over here and I click search, my site's going to bring back 105,000 part numbers, which is going to take a minute. But down the left side is every attribute that we've used in the site. So you can go down, here's all the categories, then it's brand, then it's color, etc. as we go down. There's color. Yeah, you could have you can define all those attributes yourself, but what you don't want to do is have, like I mentioned, having brand and supplier. You want to be consistent in your naming so that things will group up and look like they logically make sense. Item information, so when you import attachments, that's where I was talking about the description files. So we create those files, we upload them into the system. Now I use this to say, okay, this KIN-RU-3060 underscore description is going to be my primary description for this part. I'm going to want that to display. I'm also going to want this image to display. And you can see I broke my own rule. There's no underscore DSEC there. But in this example, just a quick way to show how you can assign those attachments. You can assign up to 3 images in one run. You can assign, I think it's 5 text attachments in one run. You can define URL attachments or URL links. Like, for example, we have manufacturers that have install instructions. Well, rather than downloading all their install instructions and then reloading them all on my site, why not just put a link directly to the vendor site that can just say installation times, click here. And really, I think I'm a little bit long, but I tried to keep this to 30 minutes. I know it's a lot of information. This slide deck, we'll put it out on TUG. Anyone can certainly reach out to me on TUG or even email. My email is just my name at midwestwheel.com. Certainly willing to throw out any suggestions or anything that can do to help you. But I'm going to throw this back over to Gloria and let her handle some questions and answers.
Thanks, Steve. At this time, I'm going to turn the screen over to Craig so that he can share his presentation that might address some questions that are pending. And I do already have a couple of things in the question bank. And we'll address those once Craig and Don let me know to go ahead and share those.
Hi everyone, it's Craig Basson, Don Harris here from EasyAsk. Pleasure to be here and thanks very much for inviting us. Steve, thanks so much for this great presentation. So we've recently had a change and we're actually excited about it. And what I mean by that is that previously our relationship with Infor Corporation has been as a technology provider and OEM provider. And that's really precluded us from working hand in glove really directly with the Storefront base. We're always second tier on support, second tier on consulting, second tier on training. So unless Infor called us in, we didn't really get a chance to work, directly with Storefront customers. That changed. We talked to Catherine actually at TUG, and so that's changed. As we said, we're going to continue to enhance EasyAsk for the next decade, just like the last decade. And how do we get those enhancements to the base? And she said, feel free to work directly with the base. And so we've been doing that now for the past couple months, and we've worked hand in glove with maybe half a dozen different Storefront customers, and we're actually shocked, truthfully, to find out how poorly search was working. And it was, kind of a huge surprise and a disappointment to EasyAsk. EasyAsk is really all about finding the right products the first time, and to find out that it actually wasn't performing well was a shock. But it's also something that we could fix really in a matter of hours. And we've done that time and time and time again. In fact, working with Steve just for a few days helped him out. We want to reach out and try to connect with everybody here. So I'll blast through this very quickly. I'm going to try to make this a short deck. We're talking about, EasyAsk Direct, kind of the future of Storefront. So the first thing I want to state is you don't actually have to be on Storefront version 500. We can install a current version of EasyAsk on almost any version of Storefront you're on. And if you happen to have a version of EasyAsk without Studio, we'll make sure you have Studio. So let's just kind of blast through these real quickly. So who are we? We're the world's smartest AI-based natural language search engine for e-commerce. And that's a true statement. And if you haven't seen it before, we can even do things like mobile voice search, allow you to hit a microphone on your smartphone and speak a paragraph, and EasyAsk will understand exactly the intent of what that search was and find the right results. So today, we are actually at version 16. The vast majority of the Storefront base seems to be on version 12. So what we'd like to do is work with each of you or any of you Storefront customers that are interested. And again, we can provide you with a current version of EasyAsk. There's a tremendous amount of functionality we've built into it, and I'll cover that very briefly. We're devising an EasyAsk for Storefront product roadmap going forward. So we're actually bifurcating the product. There's EasyAsk for B2C, but we're actually taking the EasyAsk for Storefront product and enhancing that product going forward. What we kind of see in the Storefront base is a bit of chaos, and depending on which channel partner you're working with, you might be offered the ability to upgrade to Rhythm, or potentially to Insight, or potentially to Enterprise Store, or potentially to Magento. And we actually think that Storefront's a pretty good engine, right? And there are things we can do to help enhance that engine, right? Including building out EasyAsk on the back end, right? Providing support if you need it. We're happy to do that. We're working hand in glove with Action Associates to provide a cloud-based version of Storefront going forward along with EasyAsk. Right? We have access to the Storefront source and hotline support as well. And I'm actually very excited to announce that we've just put an agreement together with Storefront. And many of you may know Storefront. It's an engine that actually provides a look and feel as though you've got a B2C solution created here in the 21st century, as opposed to, unfortunately, the look and feel that most of the Storefront sites have. So not only can we enhance the back end with newer versions of EasyAsk, maybe some extensions to provide new functionality, for Storefront, we can actually enhance that front end and really change that look and feel and give you a responsive platform. So if you want to roll out a mobile solution, now you can. So we're very excited to be working with Storefront going forward. Here's some of the features that we've built into EasyAsk, and again, vast majority of the Storefront base doesn't have these. So it's a new interactive dashboard, the ability to integrate with Google Analytics, extensions for banner management, enhanced grouping, conditional searches, studio-defined messaging, right? We can actually even integrate now with personalization and dramatic, speed improvements. Again, the next series of slides pretty much goes through these in depth. We can show you what the dashboards look like, but I don't want to chew up too much time here. We're actually going to have our own TUG-based webinar toward the end of August or September. We're still working on scheduling for that. And I think the most important thing we could do, or that I can do right now, is probably open this up for questions and answers for Don, right? But before I do that, let me make sure that you have our contact information, which is at the end of this deck. And we would invite all of you to please reach out. We'd love to work hand in glove with you. We're not actually doing this to drive consulting revenues. We actually want EasyAsk to perform well. And again, in most of the recent interactions we've seen, search hasn't worked very well. Again, and to us, that's an aberration. We expect EasyAsk to always provide the right products the first time. So, we welcome the interaction. We'd love to help you. We've enjoyed working with Steve, and we're actually building some of his requests into some future roadmaps for EasyAsk. We're going to be, establishing a Storefront customer guidance council to help us get some suggestions for new functionality that you'd like to see built into the product, and what else we can build into EasyAsk to help you going forward. And we think we can have another rich decade going forward with you all, and we look forward to working with you. Here's our contact information, and I will now shut up and turn it over to Don. Gloria, back to you for any questions, technical questions for us. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I have a comment as well as recommendation from Marty Cohen. He says regarding the importing of images, if the image has the same name as the original image, it will actually overwrite the original image.
And that's correct. So when I made that comment about we've had clamps, there should have been golf clubs. So we had our IT staffer load an image deck, and it overwrote an image that was out there from a prior vendor. So now you have the same image showing up on two different parts. So you just have to be careful that you get those prefixes and keep those names unique so that you don't end up with things overlapping. The text files are a little different. You end up with the _1 and multiple versions. But images, yeah, he's correct. It does overwrite it. The other comment I noticed here was using the import utility. The example that I showed had the sequence numbers counting up by 1. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4. The disadvantage of counting them up just by 1, I don't care because every month I blow my whole catalog away. His suggestion is to go up by 10s so that you have space in the middle to add products. Maybe you have the best new widget in the world and you want to add it to page 1. Well, if you've numbered everything 1, 2, 3, 4, you can't really go slip it in to be number 3 because you've already got a number 3. So good suggestion there. Again, it's time saver and gives you an opportunity that maybe you don't want to take your whole catalog down. You just want to add a part. That's leave yourself some gaps so you can slip some parts in when you need to.
And we have another question here or comment. Since Infor pushes us to request support via the support portal, what is the best way to get in touch directly with the EasyAsk team to get support and discuss upgrades?
I guess that's for us. Well, certainly there's, hopefully on the screen you can see Don's email address, dharris@easyask.com. Again, I'm Craig, CEO here. I'm Craig at easyask.com. Evan Babotis is VP of Sales. Evan B. Just shoot us a note or give us a call. Go to the website. Phone number's there. We'll be happy to jump all over it for you. I did want to mention, because I did see that Marty had made some good suggestions there. I would tell you, if you're an Action Associates, you're in pretty good hands with Marty. You should know it's EasyAsk, right? And if you've worked with Ben at FunHat, you're in pretty good hands with Ben. Certainly, two wonderful EasyAsk resources. We'll be enhancing the product, right? If you work directly with us, we'll be sending most current versions of EasyAsk. We know how to download it. We know how to connect it up to whatever version of Storefront you're on. So almost immediately we can provide new functionality going forward. Be happy to discuss engineering support, maintenance, maybe an Storefront front end. We really welcome the opportunity to work directly with you.
The only thing I'd like to, Don here, like to add to that is that you can also email support@easyask.com, particularly if you have a specific issue that you're trying to address. That'll widen the distribution of who will be able to see that and get back to you.
All right.
I was going to comment. Ben reached out earlier this week with FunHat and mentioned that even if you're on a different version of Storefront than the current one I'm running, where I said you could leave the search box blank and hit search, one of his tips is if you just type not space anything that won't yield a result, just put some junk characters in there and hit search. EasyAsk will keep relaxing that search until it dumps the same complete list of part numbers and attributes. So that's a tip from him that you can do that same kind of pull every part number and every attribute all at once.
Thank you. We'll give it just another moment to see if anyone else has any questions. I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for such a great presentation today. And I don't see anything else popping up into the questions window. So at this time, Steve, I'd like to thank you and and Craig and Don for a wonderful presentation this afternoon. Again, it will be available on the TUG website tomorrow afternoon to share with your peers and other colleagues that might benefit from such great content. And as they say in show business, oh, I was going to say that, but Marty has one other point here. He says, review the PowerPoint. I saw a typo in one of the pages.
Uh-oh.
So,
all right. Well, I'll try to find that and get it and we'll put this slide deck out on TUG. And I've got a little macro that I use for Excel sheets where if you download all your SEC records and you want to export them into text files, I've written a macro that'll split those text files out, and I'll share that as well.
Okay, and we do have another question. Roger Stanger is asking, can we use EasyAsk on non-storefront web stores?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was nothing specific about EasyAsk that was unique to Storefront. So we can deploy on almost any platform and against any catalog.
And we'll give it just another moment to see if there's any last-minute questions.
Yeah, I'd also like to say just if anyone on their site has sort of some pet peeves that are happening, like either there's too much work to get things working the way you'd like, or it's just not working the way you'd like, it's just a general comment of things that you think can or at least should be better, that's a good starting thing for to contact us, let us know about it, and we'd certainly like to work with you to get it to where you'd like it to be. Right.
Thanks, Don. Also, don't assume that any comments made to Info ever trickled up to EasyAsk. Let's start direct conversations so we can help.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think it's safe to say now that this is a wrap. We want to once again thank everyone for joining us today. And again, gentlemen, thank you for such a great presentation.
Thank you, Gloria.